Welcome guys to my tutorial for this rust effect on this Nighthaunt jailer. You can use it on any other model, but let's get into it. Okay, what we're going to use is we're going to use a base color of lead boucher, and we're going to thin this down and apply it to all the areas where you want this rust effect to be. So all the areas are going to be on this is the chain, the actual metal body on the actual face, and on the body itself, and obviously it's padlocks that is hanging down. So without further ado, you just paint it on there. You don't need to be too careful with the paint on this one, because obviously it's just metal and cloth. We're going to do the cloth at another time, and then we can cover that over anyway. So just make sure you get underneath these ridges, and make sure that you've got a full coverage of all the metal, because any little like sort of mistakes that you go out the lines, we can sort that out. So there you go. So that's all done. So it'll look something like this. Now obviously it looks brand new at the moment, so we're just going to need to stain this. So staining, we're going to use actually a funny and camo shade, and the reason for this is because it's green, and it gives that kind of it's a dirty green, which gives it that kind of grimy, a lot of aged. Yeah, I wouldn't want to touch it without any protection gloves. So now you just apply this straight from the pot, and like sort of put quite a bit on. Like sort of, as you can see, I'm not actually like sort of diluting it or anything like that. I'm just popping it on. Now, as you can see, like sort of, you can you get really nice low light, so you're going to get some nice shadow and shade here. So make sure that you put it on quite nicely. Now, what I'd say is the only problem with putting quite a bit on is the pooling. So if it pools, which as you can see, look in the keys, there we go, I've taken it out. So you get some pooling, and it'll just be darker there. So what you can do, all you have to do is like sort of clean your brush off and pull it out like a blotting paper. Just sponge it in, and it'll pull out. So I'll do this to the whole model, and then we've got this. So this is when it's dried. It takes about 20 minutes, and then what we're going to do is we are now going to put some what's called typhus corrosion on it. So I'll show you the pot in a second. Now it's a technical paint from Citadel. So, and what it does is it gives a nice texture of rust and stuff like that into the actual model. So I would recommend using a like sort of a end of life brush, as you will, because this stuff doesn't fare well with brushes. It's got a lot of grit in it, and you'll see like sort of now how it looks. So what I do is with this one, you don't brush it on like normal paint. Yeah, I find the best results is to dab it on. So straight from the pot again. So you just dab it like I'm doing now in areas that you would have thought rust would be, like sort of inside the chain parts and by the lock and in the little crevices. So like sort of there's a little crevice of the padlock there. Pop it in there, and I mean, you don't want to use it too much because you don't want it to look like, you know, just full rust. So put it on sparingly, and like sort of in areas that you think the rust would be. I usually put them down in the little like crevices and everything like that, and that makes a nice effect on the actual model. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do it on the whole model. We're going to speed this up now, so you don't have to hear me blabbling on. So, and then what we do is we'll have the whole image done. So as you can see, just popping more effects on there. Now, it's a bit like a wash in this term. So if you do have a little bit too much on there, just clean your brush off and filter it out. So on the bigger areas, filtering it out is a good idea, or like sort of watering it down, shall we say. As you don't want it being too obtruse, shall we say. So that's what I've done here, is like sort of I get it into the corners there and then blend it out a little bit. So blend it out, just clean your brush off and drag the actual like sort of the excess amount across your actual bit of metal, and then you can just keep cleaning your brush and then popping it through. And like sort of filtering it out, and it will just have a nice gradient to it instead of this harsh line. Okay, so we're onto the dry brushing of the Rizzler Rust. Now this is a dry paint. Now it's like a bit clayey. So what I tend to do is, now we're dry brushing, we use a dry brush, just like this one, if you wanted to. I find that these are good. Also, the same sort of effects can be brought out by old makeup brushes. So these are just as good. So I use these as well. What we're going to do is we're going to get a little bit on our dry brush. And like about that much, so not a lot, because we're going to brush most of it off. So what we'll do is we'll brush it into this like sort of towel, and then we're just going to get it all into the fibers, into the like sort of paintbrush hairs. So, and then rub it off. So what you're going to do is you want about that much, so hardly anything. So 95% of the paint's off. So what we do is I've got to hold this model because this is like sort of pivoting and it all springs. So and then all you do is lightly brush all over the model. So just don't worry about if it doesn't look like it's coming on straight away. Just keep at it really lightly, because what you don't want to do is get this really thickly on there, because it won't look as good. And then do that with the whole model. So just be careful if you've got something like this suspended, you need to hold it. So if you've done the whole thing quite lightly, then you'll have an effect that looks like this. You can leave it here. I like it like this. It's absolutely fine. However, some people can do another highlight on it, which we will do, which will bring up some of the higher areas a little bit lighter. Won't look brand new, which we don't want it to look like anyway. So we're going to do the same thing again with Stormhouse Silver now. So this is just a really nice bright metallic from Citadel. So we're going to just do the same, just most of it off. Make sure we haven't got much on there. Do this exactly the same with the Rizzler Rust. So we're just going to highlight the higher areas of this thing. So we're just going to do the same thing like that. I've got to hold it again. And as you can see, it's just lightening up those areas that are pronounced. And what that'll do is that'll give you a nice indication that, some things do get scratched and stuff like that. And it's probably taking that scratch off. Like sort of some of this rust off. However, you can see it's still not taking out the nice oranges that you get with this rust, and it hasn't taken out the green of the actual stain as well. So okay, and that's the finished product. Okay guys, if you liked that tutorial, please give it a like. If you didn't like it, give it a dislike, and please subscribe. It helps out a lot, and I will be doing more of this in the future. Thank you.